What's up guys, welcome back to Daniel Talks Football right here on YouTube. I'm Daniel and we're back with another video. In this video we're going to be rating some more transfers. These are some quite old transfers and I'm just going to sit here and speak to you about how I think they'll settle into their clubs and give them all a rating. I've got a dog to the side of me here who has just currently jumped up for some attention and we are here to analyse these transfers. Before we do get into the video, please make sure to like the video, comment down below and also subscribe to the channel. Go over and follow the TikTok and the Instagram Daniel Talks Football on both, as my hand is still over here. Yes, hello bunch. We'll get straight into it with the first transfer. The first transfer I've gone for is Xavi Simons from, this is not the transfer from PSV to PSG, it's transfer from PSG to Leipzig. I'll do the loan transfer instead. I think this is a really, really good move for Leipzig. PSG have obviously got him back for peanuts, as we all know. I think it was like 6 or 7 million. And they wouldn't have just wanted him to sit around being a squad rotation player this year. I think the loan to Leipzig is a good one so that they can sort of truly figure out his level. We all know when he was at PSG he wasn't the greatest, but at PSV last year he really, really showed how good he can be. I think for Leipzig he's a really, really good pickup and I think he's going to add some quality to a side who have just lost Dominic Szoboszlai. Personally, I'll give this one a 10 out of 10. Simply because there's no risk for Leipzig. They're getting in a very, very good talent and what's the worst that happens? He's awful and he goes back at the end of the year, or he's good. There's no risk here. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. Next up we've got not Amadou. It's the new Manchester United goalkeeper Onana. I think this is a lot of money been spent on a goalkeeper. I think it's 55-60 million. However, I do feel like it's money well spent. I think he's going to do well for United, and we've already seen that he's not scared to sort of stand up to some of the more senior players. Yes, hello Benji. He's not scared to stand up to some of the more senior players in the squad, and I think that'll do him really, really well. I think I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. I think, yes, it is a lot of money to spend on a goalkeeper, but we've seen with Man City and Liverpool where spending big on a goalkeeper, Alisson and Ederson, it can really do you well. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Next up, we've got another Manchester United player, and this one is Haaland. Now, I'm not so sure on Haaland as I am on Onana. While I think he's a decent player, I'm not sure if he's worth the 70-odd million that they've spent on him. There's a possibility he doesn't even start. The dog's just come up onto me lap. There's a possibility he doesn't even start with Rashford being able to play centrally. But I think if you give it a few years, or by the end of this season, I think Haaland will be a nailed-down starter. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for Manchester United. You can't see him. I think he's going to be a really, really good player for Manchester United. And yeah, I tip him to do really, really well. Yes, hello Benji. Hello. Moving on into the next, this is a shambles of a video, I do apologise. Moving on into the next player, we have Kim Min-jae, who's gone to Bayern Munich from Napoli. It's an incredible price for the South Korean. I believe it's 40-50 million, and that is such a cheap price. I think him and De Ligt will be a partnership that people will fear and will be an excellent, excellent partnership. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. I think it's a cheapish price, and yeah, I really, really think he'll do well there. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. Yes, hello Benji. You will do well for me as well. Oh, we've got the other dog coming in now. Oh, this is a shambles. I do apologise. Daniel Talks, dogs wanting... I can't have either of my hands. Yes. They'll just paw at me if I don't stroke them, so here we are. Moving on into the next player, and we've actually gone for a player I know very, very well. It's Harvey Barnes. Obviously, Harvey Barnes played for my club, Leicester City, and he's just got a big move to Newcastle for 38 or 39 million. Now, that is a big price tag for a player who plays in the same position as a player who spent 50 million on in January. Obviously, the signing of Anthony Gordon from Everton was a 50 million-ish kind of player. However, I think Barnes is the better player out of the two. He improved a lot throughout his Leicester career, and he was one of those players in the side last year that he played well. I'm not going to say he was excellent the entire year. Of course he wasn't. He had good spells and he had bad spells. But he was one of the shining lights in that team. So for me, I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. Next up, we have Diaby. Now, I think this is the kind of signing that takes Villa to the next level. 50 million, and what a player he is for that kind of price as well. I think he'll fit into Emery's side really, really well. I think he'll also help to take some of that goal-scoring pressure off Ollie Watkins. For me, I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. I think he's a top player, and yeah, 8 out of 10. Moving on to the next player, and we have Ismail. I think it's Ismail. So anyway, he's moved to Marseille for 15 million. after getting 10 goals and 7 assists last year in the Championship with Watford. We all remember Salah from that, massive Premier League player. Are you going to shut up? He wants all the attention on him. We all remember Salah obviously as that £40 million player that Watford were wanting when teams like Manchester United were interested in him a while back. He's obviously not that good. He's not at that same level that he was back then. But I still believe he could possibly get to it. I don't think he's as good as he once was, but I think he'll be a decent enough signing, possibly a squad rotation player. But for 15 million, you can kind of get away with that. I think a 6 out of 10 for me. Next up, we've got now Danjuma. Now we all know about Danjuma's failed transfer as of last January. However, he's finally arrived at Everton after obviously the situation that they were left in last January. He's shown to be a good player, and I think there's a low risk with this simply just being a loan. I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. I don't see the downside to this move at all. Next up, and we've got a new Fulham signing. It's Calvin Bassey, who was signed for Fulham for 22 million from Ajax. There's definitely no bias to me when it comes to this transfer. Definitely not sure of the fact that he came through the Leicester Academy. But I think the Nigerian centre-back is actually a really, really good player. He proved that at Rangers, and he did it again at Ajax. And it's a decent price as well for only 22 million. I'm going to give this one another 8 out of 10. I think for Fulham, 22 million, that's not a massive fee. And he's a really, really good player. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. Moving on to the next player, and it's actually Ross Barkley. Now, I think this is a really good deal for all parties. While I don't know the length of the contract that he's going to be on at Luton after his move to the newly promoted Premier League side, I think he's going to offer some good Premier League experience, and he could turn into the player we all once knew he was. It's a low risk with it being a free transfer, and if the wages are low, I'd be tempted to give this one even a 9 out of 10. That is depending on the wages being low, which I don't know if they are, but yeah, I think he'll do well. Moving on to the next player, and it's actually Sanchez, who has just signed for Chelsea from Brighton and Hove Albion. I just don't see the need for this deal. It's around 25 million, and I think that money's been spent on a player who will be a backup. I know this year he's going to start, but in a year's time, I think Chelsea will really focus on that goalkeeping position, and they'll go out and they'll bring in a top keeper, whoever that comes out to be. And at that point, he'll be backup. 25 million for a backup, I guess it's not loads, but I think they probably should have just gone for Raya. It would have cost them 5 more million, and he actually would have been a good goalkeeper for this season. Yeah, I give it 5 out of 10. And then the last signing of all, it's Tino Livramento. Now, this is an expectedly expensive deal, with Chelsea being owed such a huge amount of the transfer fee. 35 million is a lot of money for a player of Livramento's standard. However, with around 20 million of that going to Chelsea, it's understandable. Trippier is also ageing, and I think it's a really good signing. I think other areas of the squad could possibly have needed the attention a little bit more. Trippier would have still been good enough for this season. They could have just kept Harrison and Ashby instead of loaning him out. However, I think it's a good signing, and I'll give him a 7 out of 10. What do you make to these signings? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you all again in the next video. See ya!